Hello, I am Sean McCoy.
And I'm Mary Murphy.
And this week we are going to talk through a few of the headlines that we've had in GearJunkie.com over the last few days. A few of them have been pretty interesting. There was a big mountain lion attack on a small person. The Spot X device got a major upgrade, and we had a trail runner go for a long jog across the Bonneville Salt Flats. So to get started this week, we're going to talk about the mountain lion attack on an 8-year-old boy up near Bailey, Colorado. This is something that doesn't happen too often, right?
It doesn't, although there was another recent mountain lion attack in the Front Range of Colorado where a runner actually fought off and killed a mountain lion. However, this particular case was a child in his backyard, and the mountain lion was a lot larger.
Yes, that other one, I think it was a juvenile mountain lion, whereas this was a
full-on adult mountain lion.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
we should probably preface this by saying the child is okay.
Yes.
He
Child lived.
He was able to get medical attention, and he was pretty brave through the whole ordeal.
So can you walk through some of the details of what happened?
Yeah, sure. So the young kid was in his backyard with his brother, just playing, hanging out, when the mountain lion approached and attacked. The father was able to come out. He was alerted to the problem by the brother, and when he came out with a knife and a stick trying to scare the mountain lion off, and the lion actually had the boy's head in its mouth. So this boy was completely, was unable to fight it off by himself, was completely incapacitated. The dad was able to scare and fight it off, and then the boy ended up being okay, so it's always good to hear.
Yeah, it's a crazy story. Bailey, Colorado is definitely mountain lion country. If you spend much time in the Front Range of Colorado, you know there are a lot of mountain lions up there. I've got a friend who lives up there and said that they had GPS trackers on some around his house, and they had said there were like 8 in his backyard at one point.
Yeah, they're pretty common backyard creatures, although you don't want to ever encounter one.
And you'll never see them unless they may have your head in their mouth, I guess. So, I mean, it's a rare occurrence, not something I think most people need to be afraid of, but certainly a big shocker for this 8-year-old boy who took it like a real trooper. Now, he had one, like, kind of hilarious
He
quote.
had some great advice.
Yes.
He said, if you're ever encountered with an animal like this, mountain lion or otherwise, he said, just don't do it, don't fight it, it's a cheater.
I think he's probably right.
And I think he was right.
I would not be fighting any mountain lions. So, moving on to our next story, it probably would be good if you had one of these if you encountered it in the backcountry. Spot Devices this week announced that its newest iteration of the Spot X, which is a two-way satellite transceiver, will be compatible with Bluetooth.
Right.
So, do you carry your phone in the backcountry very much?
Yes, but phones die, there's no service, you're out in the wild. The Spot device is a great tool to have, and now you can actually use the Bluetooth compatibility to essentially send messages from your phone instead of the device. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're able to use your Bluetooth settings on your phone to pair it with the device. The device then works as a satellite communicator and reaches up to the satellites. You can communicate with anybody through the phone number that is on the actual device. It has its own phone number, and you can use this anywhere that your phone wouldn't normally work. It also has a QWERTY, I think that's how you pronounce it.
QWERTY keyboard.
QWERTY keyboard. It's just kind of like the old BlackBerry style that has buttons and an up-down arrow on it.
Yeah, the keys are about like 2 centimeters wide.
They're tiny.
So. Spot device is awesome. Keyboard, not so much.
Keyboard's hard to use, especially if you have gloves on and your fingers are cold. And that's why it basically developed this ability to pair it with your phone, because you can type more easily on your phone and then send the message through the Spot device. Fortunately, it does have that keyboard, which if your phone were to die, you can still send a message from the device. You can still send an SOS out to first responders.
Right.
I've used the older version of this device. I think you have a little bit too.
Yeah.
I had mixed success with it in the early stages. There were a few messages that I sent that never went through, a couple that I never received, but according to other people who have used more recent versions, that problem has been fixed. If you've used it yourself out there, I'd love to hear more feedback about that and more crowdsourcing of information on it. But from my understanding, the device has gotten more reliable.
Yeah, and they're pretty good at updating their products, and in this case, they've updated it to work with the app, to work with your phone. It's more mainstream, and although to note that it doesn't work with older versions of the Spot X
Yes.
two-way messenger.
Yes. If
So
you
do have to buy the new one.
You have to buy the new one.
To get the Bluetooth settings.
Yes. And Spot will give people who have the old version of the Spot X a $100 discount on the new version so that you can upgrade and not cost you quite as much. So if you're looking for a new satellite communicator, it's one to compare with the Garmin's and some others out there that also use Bluetooth connectivity. Has a lot of good features, and you can compare those out. Take a look at the article that we have on GearJunkie.com for some more details about that. Finally, a long run across the Bonneville Salt Flats.
Brian Metzler.
Yeah, Brian Metzler is a gear reviewer for us, a shoe reviewer particularly, who just wrote a book, Kicksology.
Yeah, book on the industry and all things running shoes.
And
so
he says he's running 1,500 pairs of new pre-production running shoes over his career. That's a lot of running shoes. He knows running shoes well, but this was a first for him to go run across the Salt Flats in Utah. ASICS took a group of 30 journalists out there to try out its newest shoe called the GlideRide. Yes. Okay. So the GlideRide is a road shoe that they took out there so that they could try it on a place with absolutely no distractions
and no terrain inconsistencies.
Yeah. And if you know the Bonneville Salt Flats, this is where people go set speed records with cars and rockets and all that kind of thing. Well, this was a little slower kind of scenario, but really interesting. His story I found fascinating, and he was saying he even at a point in time had started running with his eyes closed for 30 to 60 seconds at a time.
I thought what was interesting was that ASICS recruited runners from around the world, and they weren't testing the shoes to see who could be the fastest, but they tested them at different pace increments so that all the runners ran at separate paces. So they're literally fanning out over this massive, this salt crust essentially, and they're all running at different speeds and at different paces. So it's kind of it's very futuristic in how he was describing how he felt himself running without considering who else was running next to him or across the flats.
It sounded fascinating, the experience, and he was saying that after running for a very short time, looking one way and everybody was gone basically, in the other direction everyone was gone, and it just kind of spread out into the salt flats. And he ultimately was running about a 7:30-ish pace. I can't remember exactly.
I think he was assigned the 8:30 pace, but ended up running faster.
7:30.
Yeah.
So he was running a pretty good pace, held it, and then ultimately was slowed down by hitting wet salt.
Right. Or mud. Yeah. There's
salt
mud underneath the salt.
Yeah. I can't imagine exactly how that experience would work out, but it sounded pretty cool. That article is also on GearJunkie.com. It goes into a lot of details about the GlideRide shoe from ASICS. It's one that does hold a lot of promise for people looking for a good road running shoe, and it's been put to the test on a very large salt flat. So that's going to bring us to the end of this week's Roundup. Take a look at these articles on GearJunkie.com, and we'll see you next week.